Welcome crafters, it's Debbie O'Neill of Scrumming Wheat Designs, and today's tutorial is another project you guys have been asking me about how to make, and that is we're going to be making a floating frame. And so a floating frame means that it has no backing behind the glass. It is two pieces of glass so that it looks like whatever the image is that you put inside of it looks like it's just floating there, okay? So this is a good project for what we're going to be doing today is going to be one of those split family names, and then it's going to be their initial and then their names on here, and then the established date of when they became a family. So this is just the project I'm going to be showing you today, but the main thing is the principles I'm going to show you of how to do this can be applied anytime you want to put an vinyl on the back of glass, because it's a little bit different technique than what you do if you were just going to apply it to the front of the glass. So whether it is a glass plate and you want to put something on the bottom of it, or one of the glass kitchen trivets or anything like that, this same principle I'm going to show you you can use. So you will need a floating picture frame. This is one I got at Michael's. It's an 11-inch by 13-inch picture frame. They have square ones and rectangle ones like this, so we're going to be using this one today. You'll need a scraper and a weeding tool. I'm going to possibly be using my little fine tip tweezers, and also a pair of scissors will be helpful, and a ruler. Okay, so make sure you have a ruler out, and of course the picture frame. All right, and then we will need our vinyl. So today's project, I'm going to be cutting it out of white. The family's name that's going to go in the split will be in white, and the actual initial I'm going to be cutting out of black. Now both of these are Cricut Premium Permanent Vinyl. It sticks really well, it goes on really well, it lays flat, it will help reduce the chance for bubbles in your project. So that's why I'm using this. And then of course you'll need some transfer tape, a Cricut mat to be able to cut it with, your Cricut Explorer or Cricut Maker machine, and just your regular fine tip blade that comes with your Cricut. And to clean the glass, which is going to be really important, you'll just use some rubbing alcohol and some paper towels. Okay, so that's what we're going to need to get started. We're going to go over to Design Space. I'm going to show you an image in Design Space that we're going to use for this particular project and talk about that. Then we're going to get the vinyl cut out, we're going to weed it, and then I'm going to show you how to prepare your frame and to apply it. Let's get started. We're over in Design Space, and we're going to search for our image that we're going to use today. So we're just going to go over to Images in the left panel here, and we're going to search for split font up here in the search bar. And when you scroll down, Cricut has these really nice split fonts. Now you can use whatever you want to. This is one already in Design Space, so it's easy for us to get. There's a lot of different split fonts that are available, or you can even make your own. That's a different tutorial. But this family's name is Gilbo, so it starts with a G, so I'm going to grab the G. But there's one for every leather, and there's actually even numbers too, okay, and ampersands and things. So that's what we're going to use. I'm going to put this on my mat, and I'll make it bigger so we can see it. Okay, now this one is a single cut. Okay, so all of this is going to cut out at the same time, which is helpful and will make it easier for us to work with this. And then once you do this, then to be able to size everything, you need to measure your frame, and I'll show you that here in a moment. But I've already measured my frame, so I want to create a template of what my frame inside of my frame is going to be, so I'll know about how big I can size this. So I am going to go into Shapes, and while my frame said it was 13 by 11, my actual measurements on the interior where the glass is, where this would be showing, is about 11.75 width and 9.7 height. Well, I just made myself a template. I'm going to make this smaller so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I've created my own little, this is what the inside piece of the glass, which I would actually see, and then there is a black frame around it. Now I'm going to change this to gray just to make it easier for us to kind of tell that that's the glass part. And then you want to move your font over, okay, and you can size this however you want, however big you want it to be. I know that I want mine to be fairly big, but I'm also going to put an established date here on the bottom, so I want to leave room for that. So I'm going to come over here to text. Now you can pick whatever font you want. I'm just going to use the Cricut Sans font because it's free for everybody. Y'all can all use that. You can use whatever you want, but this is very loopy and flowery, so I think a more straight font is going to be a good juxtaposition between the image and then the font. So when you pick fonts, you want to make sure that you have something that complements your image. So this is going to be a good one for that. So I am going to type in just established, and you can put the whole date, or you can just put just put establish in the year, whatever you want to do. You don't even have to do that on yours. It just depends upon what you're using this for. You could just have their family name on here. The main thing that I'm going to be showing you is how did I do this. So I'm just going to, I ungrouped that, I unlocked it, and I'm just making it a little bit bigger, okay? And then this everything's going to be cut in black for the image and the date. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to black so we can still get a good idea of what we're looking at here. Okay, so now that I'm looking at this, this looks about the right size. So you can size this depending upon your frame, however big you want this to be. All right, so you want it to be fairly substantial because remember, it's floating. There's nothing going to be around it. It's just going to be the glass and then whatever wall it's hanging on behind it. So you want to make sure that it's a fairly large font. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and do 6.5 inches height, and that's going to give me pretty much the perfect image here. And then I'm going to make sure that this is, the width of this is about 6.5 inches because I want it to be centered underneath it. So now that I've got this part done, then because of that split, I need to put the family's name in there. So I'm going to do another text box, and I'm going to type in the family's name. And I'm actually going to say Gilbo family for this one. Okay, this is a gift. They've been married for a while now. They have kids, but they're moving into a new home at the holidays, and I want to give them this as a present. Once you get their name in, so this could be, if it was a newly married couple, you could just put their two names. You could put, Debbie and Mike or whatever, and they could just have their names there, and then put their, down here you could have the established date, and then the G would represent their family initial for their last name. Or you can actually type in the family's name here. So I could put Gilbo here on the bottom, and then just their names here, Debbie and Mike, if I want to do that. So there's different ways to do it. It depends on what you want it to look like. But for this purpose, I am just putting Gilbo family. Okay, and I'm just using the grab bar here to help me size this so it's going to fit within the black bars of this particular shape. Okay, and I'm going to make, this is going to cut out of white vinyl. Okay, so I want to highlight that and change it to white. And what you want to do is you want this part to, so it matches up along the edge of where, see where the two lines are that run across that split the shape. That's, you want your image, your name here to kind of fill that in. So I'm going to come up here to letter spacing, and I want to increase the letter spacing. I need to go up, I'm clicking the up arrow now. So I just want to keep clicking the arrow spacing until this kind of, the letters kind of space themselves out, so that now it's pretty much right on the edge of where that split is. Okay, so that's kind of getting it ready to be able to cut it. Now if you put somebody's name in here, I want you to highlight that name, and then down in your layers panel, come down here and hit the attach, because you want to keep that as one image when you go to cut this out. Okay, so make sure you have whatever you've written in here. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom with this one. I need all of this to stay together in the same orientation, so then I'm going to hit attach. Okay, so now both of these are like their own separate images here. I can move this out of the way. I can move my template out of the way. Okay, so because I don't need that anymore, so I'm just going to hide it for now. Now this is one image, this is an image, and this is an image. I like to be able to put the date on it separately as opposed to attaching these two images together, because as I'm playing with it on the actual glass on my frame, one, it'll be easier to weed it if it's two separate images, and two, it'll give me a little more wiggle room when I go to place it. All right, so now we're going to be cutting 3 different images. So we're going to go to make it up here. Now you can cut this with the Cricut Maker or your Cricut Explore machine. You'll just use your fine tip blade housing in your machine, but all of these images need to be mirrored. Okay, so I'm going to go to each one, and I'm going to turn the mirror button on. I'm going to cut these out of the same, so I actually can go here. This is a trick to show you guys. Here, this will fit on the other black piece of vinyl where the larger image is. So you can come up here. You can barely see that probably, but I can come up here where this little where the dashes are, and click on that, and it says move to another mat or hide selected. Okay, I'm going to move it to another mat, so I'm going to go move to another mat, and then it's going to pop up and it's going to say move the object. Pick the mat that you want to move it to. So I want to move it to the one where we have the G. Okay, it'll do a little check mark there, and then I'm going to say confirm. Okay, so now it has been moved to that same mat. All right, so now I don't have to put this on 2 separate mats. All right, so I've got those on, they're mirrored images, and now we're just going to cut it. So we're going to go back over to the camera. I'm going to show you how to put this on your mat. So we have our Cricut mat. I'm using the green standard mat, and then you're going to have your vinyl. So this is the Cricut permanent premium vinyl. It's marked on the back here, and you're just going to apply it to your mat and smooth it down. Okay, now this vinyl is the same color all the way through, so it's black on the top part and it's black on the back of it, which is the sticky part, and that's why we've mirrored the image, because when we go to apply it, we're going to be putting the sticky part against the inside of the glass, and that's how it's going to adhere. That's why we had to mirror the image. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is just go ahead and pick the premium vinyl setting for the material setting, and then you'll cut it out with your Cricut Maker or your Cricut Explore using the regular fine point blade tip. And then once we get it cut, then I'll be back to show you how to weed it, and then we'll get our frame ready to apply it. So the next thing we're going to do is, now that we've got our vinyl cut, you will go ahead and trim around, leaving a little bit around the outside, and go ahead and trim your vinyl. I think you can kind of see on here where the image is cut. So you want to do that for all 3 of the images. So you're going to have one that is the main focal image, and then you're going to have if you put a date, you'll have a date one. And yes, it is backwards because of how we're going to be applying it to the glass. This is the way it's supposed to look. So don't freak out and go, oh my gosh, what have I done? This is what it's supposed to do. All right, and then you will have if you put their names in the center of the split, you'll have that, and I'm doing mine in white. To weed, I'm going to use the mat to help me by keeping this in place as I go to weed it. I will have my weeding tool and some scissors out handy, and I also may even use my tweezers, so I'll have those right here. And we're just going to start in one corner and pull away. Okay, so if you haven't done weeding vinyl before, this is what you're doing. Now I'm rubbing my finger over where the cut is so that as I pull this, it makes it easy for it to come up around the outside edge. So what we want to do, this is all cut in one piece, so it's quite a bit to have to manage at once. So I like to kind of trim it up and deal with it a little bit at a time, just so that it doesn't stick on itself, and it makes it much easier to manage. Okay, so this part is the part you're weeding away. You don't keep that. I'm just going to stick it on the mat over here, and I want to go ahead and continue to weed. Lay this back down here. Okay, so weeding is removing the part you're not going to keep. If you need to, refer to the image in Design Space so you can see what parts are what need to be weeded. Sometimes it's a little confusing, but we're going to take away everything and start exposing the letter and that little filigree floral that's around this letter. Okay, so there's little pieces here you're going to be removing in between the shapes. And it's probably hard to see this on camera. I apologize for that, but you can start seeing it as I weed it away. You can start seeing the image. Okay, so we'll just start pulling up pieces of it, and you'll start exposing what it looks like. And so I'm just going to go ahead and weed this. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're just going to weed this away. You'll do it through the section. Now I'm going to go ahead and start on the bottom part here so you can see what that looks like. So for this particular image, there's a split. So you want to make sure that you leave that line in between the image. Okay, so I'm just going to peel the outside off here. And like I said, it's kind of a big image, so as I do it, I'll tear some off, or I'll use the scissors and pull some away. There again, you'll start seeing where you need to just remove the image. So once you get it all weeded, you're going to notice again, it is backwards, right, from what it would normally look like. If you flip it over, you can kind of see through the backing here. But make sure that you have if you're using the same image, make sure you have gotten all the little centers of the flowers out. There's a couple of small scoops here in these flowers that you need to make sure you get out. But you'll have this finished, and you'll have your words and numbers or letters or whatever it is you've done will be weeded as well. Okay, so I've cut a piece of transfer tape that's going to fit both of these images when I go to apply them, and then I have a piece of transfer tape that's going to be big enough to go over the larger image. This is a floating frame. I got it at Michael's. They sell them at different craft stores and online, so your shape may be different than mine depending upon which one you pick, but I'm using an 11 by 13 inch. So we're going to flip it over, and this one can be done either hanging vertically or horizontal. I'm going to be hanging mine horizontally, and so this is where the eye hook thing is here. All right, and I like to just leave the cover on there because just for transportation purposes or whatever, it doesn't scrape anything. Then you'll move the little holders here, and there is a piece that comes out, okay? You're going to set this off to the side. We will be adding this back in. Then you need to lift up your glass. I like to put my fingers underneath, and I'm going to pick up the 2 pieces of glass, okay? I'm going to set this off for a second. There are 2 pieces of glass. So there's a piece of glass, and then there is this liner piece, okay, that looks like a little black frame. That also will come out. And then you have this piece of glass, okay? This piece of glass is the one that is the back of the glass, the back part of the glass frame. So you've got 2 pieces of glass. We're going to remove the stickers. Now, to remove the stickers, because you want this to be completely clean when you go to look at this. So this part had the stickers on it, and it's sticky tape. So you can, the rubbing alcohol will sometimes get it off, so we can try that. Also, Goo Gone is another thing you can use. Cut a piece of transfer tape that is going to fit over your image. And take off the liner. Now save the liner because you can reuse this transfer tape. And then I like to just kind of fold it in half and lay it straight down like this, and then let the left side go down, and then let the right side go down, and use my scraper tool to burnish it on. I really like this Cricut extra large scraper for when I've got big projects like this. It makes it so much easier and quicker. Okay, so you're going to get it ready. Okay, so we're going to set this off to the side for a minute. Now we're going to pull our frame back out. Okay, so we've got our frame. Our frame is clean. It's ready to go. I want to make sure that I have turned it around to the orientation that this is where the hanger is. This frame, you can either hang it horizontally or vertically. So I'm going to be hanging mine horizontally. Now I've got the piece of glass, the first piece of glass that we cleaned is in here. This is what we're going to be applying the vinyl to. And I want to lay my piece back in here because this is a separator for the glass, okay? It's basically just going to keep the glass from rubbing together. And so you definitely want to put that back in. And then once you know what your orientation of your frame's going to be, then we need to figure out where is our project going on this, right? So it's going to go here, and we'll have our words, or if you did the date and stuff. So you need to kind of figure out where are you putting this on your frame, all right? So depending upon the size that you have, we'll be laying it on. And what you can do is, I took a dry erase marker and I made a mark in the middle of the design. Okay, so I just made a little blue mark right there. And so then I know that that's the center of my design. Okay, so if I fold this over, it would be almost exactly perfectly in the center. All right, now what you can do is you can take your ruler and figure out where the center point is for your particular length of your project, okay? Because y'all may be using a different size frame. So you want to measure it. So I knew when I measured this earlier, it's 11.75 inches between the sides of this liner. 11.75, 5.5 plus. So I'm going to mark my center for my frame with the dry erase marker, because I'm going to be able to erase this, just to give me an idea of where the center of my frame is. That's going to help me figure that out. And we're going to be applying this after we put down our main focal image, which is going to be the G. Then this is going to go underneath it. So I'm going to put this on afterwards because it's going to get centered in between this. All right, so now that I have this, make sure that your frame is squared up. And it's good to have like the grid mat here to kind of help you make sure your frame is squared. And then you're going to flip this over and we're going to take off the liner for the vinyl. Okay, so this is the sticky part of the vinyl that's going to be exposed, and it's going to go on our glass. And when you go to lay this down, you're going to think, oh, it looks like it's backwards. It won't be when we flip the frame back over. Now, I highly recommend that you stand up when you go to apply your vinyl down so that you have it lined up where you want it and it is straight. All right, so I'm going to lay it down. I laid it in the middle, then I moved to the left, and then I moved to the right. Then I'm just going to take my scraper tool and I'm going to apply it and burnish well. All right, then we're just going to peel this off. Now remember, you can reuse this transfer tape, so we're going to put it back on its backing sheet and reuse this another time. Going to lay it on here, and then I can set this off and use it later. You will notice that you may end up with a few little air bubbles. That is not a big deal. You can either take your finger. I tend to take my finger and just press them out. All it is a little bit of air trapped under there. Okay, perfectly normal. Most of the air will just naturally seep out when over like a 24-hour period. So you don't have to be too obsessed with it. But if you have any really big air pockets, you can take a little needle and poke a hole in it. So now once you have this on, when you flip it over, you're going to see that the G is in the right orientation. Ta-da! All right, so that's all there is to it, is that you have mirrored the vinyl, mirrored the image, and then you cut the vinyl out and you put it on the inside of the frame so that the sticky part of the vinyl is what gets adhered onto the frame, and then you're going to see it in the right orientation. Now we need to put our, I'm adding a date to mine, right? So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to do the same thing where I want to line this up. I know that I want to put it right underneath, and I'm just using the line on the mat to help me figure out that it's straight. Varnish this and peel this off. Ta-da! Again, you can put this back on its liner. So you can, I'm going to reuse this actually, because this same piece, I need to do the family's name that goes in the middle. The family name's on this piece that I've already weeded, so I'm just going to lay it on. Got the family name on, and remember it goes, make sure my frame's lined up here. Okay, it goes here between the lines. Okay, sorry, you're going to see my head for a second so that I can look at this and lay it on there right where it's supposed to be. We're going to take that off, and we're going to finish assembling and then flip it over and take a look. Now that you have that done, you're going to lay your other piece of glass in. Now you want to make sure that this piece of glass is clean, so if you see any fingerprints on it or anything that you missed earlier when we cleaned it, be sure and take care of that. Lay this back on top of where the liner is, and then you have this piece goes back in here like so. Okay, and then you're just going to turn down the little hooks here that hold that piece in place, and this is what's pushing the glass against each other to hold it in place. So sometimes you have to lift these up just slightly to get them over that little frame. Now to have our floating frame. That's all there is to it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. These make great gifts like I said earlier, and I will talk to you guys later. Happy crafting. that. I need to take that off. I forgot to take it off. I'm going to need to take the glass back off and erase my mark up here.